just watching President Obama spend time earlier tonight boasting about the economy. Well, facts, they paint a much different picture. Now, what is exactly true is this. He oversaw the precipitous decline of the American economy. That's a fact. Now, here's why. Under President Obama, we have seen the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. 95 million of your fellow Americans are out of the labor force. He didn't mention that tonight. It's been the worst recovery since the 1940s. The lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. Over 11 million more Americans are on food stamps since he became president. Over 43 million Americans now living in poverty. 1 in 5 American families without somebody in the labor force, not one person. 1 in 6 adult men ages 18 to 34, they're either incarcerated or they're out of the labor force. And by the time he leaves office, President Barack Hussein Obama will have accumulated more debt than all the other presidents before him combined. And speaking of debt, when President Obama finally leaves office, it will be almost $20 trillion, which means during the past 8 years, he has amassed $9.3 trillion in debt. A guy that once said $9 trillion in debt, that's irresponsible, that's unpatriotic. Then, of course, there's President Obama's assault on the business community through his burdensome regulations. Now, get this. The estimated cost of regulations under Obama, look at that number, a staggering $873 billion. That includes a shocking $344 billion cost in EPA regulations alone. All told, the number of new regulations that have been finalized under President Obama, that checks in at almost 3,000. Then, of course, there's jobs. Now, President Obama is always bragging about how many he's created, but facts are facts, and in the past 8 years, America has lost over 300,000 manufacturing jobs, and the president won't tell you that last year, America had a global trade deficit of over $732 billion. Then, of course, there's health care, his signature legislation. Now, remember when Obama repeatedly told you, you keep your doctor, you keep your plan, on average, you save $2,500 a year? Remember this?
No matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
Millions of people lost their doctors, they lost their plans, and that is the start of the Obamacare disaster. This year, Obamacare premiums are exploding by 25% on average. In Arizona, they're jumping by a stunning 116%. But the misery doesn't end there. Now, remember when Obama said that the average American family would save $2,500 a year on health care? The exact opposite has happened. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, the increase in health care costs for employer-sponsored benefits since 2008 is now $5,462. That is a 43% increase. Now, deductibles are so high that many of you can't even afford to use your plan. They're essentially useless to you. Now, choice in health care providers is also evaporating. In states like Alabama, Alaska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Wyoming, people buying on the exchanges, they just have a single insurer to choose from. So much for choice. And many insurers are now pulling out of the Obamacare exchanges because they're losing massive amounts of money. Now, then there's the president's failed foreign policy. Where do I start? The guy that gave Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, $150 billion and allows them to continue to spin their centrifuges. And, of course, he paid a ransom there. He drew a red line in the sand with Syria and Assad. Assad crossed that red line. Obama did nothing. The country is now in a vicious civil war, which has created a massive worldwide humanitarian crisis. President Obama, remember in Egypt, he gave Mohammed Morsi, former Muslim Brotherhood head, he gave him F-16s, tanks, $1.5 billion of your tax dollars. In Libya, the president helped overthrow Gaddafi, and that country has since fallen into chaos, creating a hotbed for what is ISIS. And speaking of ISIS, remember back in 2014, President Obama called them the JV team. And then in 2015, just hours before the horrific ISIS attack in Paris that killed over 100 people, the president said ISIS is contained. ISIS was never contained. They were never the JV. And we know that because the terror group took over large parts of Iraq because he left too early. And the reason ISIS was able to do that, because President Obama created a vacuum. He pulled out these American troops for purely political reasons. Now, there's no doubt that President Obama's legacy has now damaged the country. But the good news tonight, we have a new president in 10 days, President-elect Donald Trump. He has promised to clean up this mess, and he has a very clear plan to do it, including creating millions of new jobs, lowering taxes, reforming the tax code, going from 7 brackets to 3 tax brackets, negotiating better and fairer trade deals, cutting regulations that are so burdensome, allowing multinational corporations to bring back trillions of dollars, repatriate that money with a one-time 10% tax. Energy independence is a promise of President-elect Trump, replacing Obamacare, building a border wall, vetting refugees, appointing originalist justices who actually will follow the intended meaning of the Constitution, believe in separation of powers, co-equal branches of government. And this is a president-elect that will say radical Islam and talk about destroying ISIS and all of the above. He talked about draining the swamp, reducing the size of government, eliminating bureaucratic waste, fraud, abuse, sending education back to the states, and finally, President-elect Trump has promised to remember the forgotten man, the people in Michigan, the people in Ohio, the people in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Now, the president-elect has already signaled that he's very seriously doing all that he can up to now to get congressional Republicans to show some backbone, that they will stand on their principles of limited government, balanced budgets, that they'll pass his agenda. Real, lasting change, hopefully, is coming our way. It will be up to you to hold these people accountable, and we'll be doing it here.
The December jobs report, a couple of numbers for you. First of all, 156,000 jobs were created in December. Okay, not very good, frankly. That's a rather weak performance. Of that 156,000 new jobs, 41,000 were part-time. Now, hundreds of you have written into us about the job situation under President Obama. I got a couple some of your input to read for you. This is from Brenda. I used to work as a machinist and assembler in an aerospace factory in Nebraska until I got laid off in 2009. Now, the best position I can find is working in an insurance office with no benefits. I'm making 70% of what I used to make. Then we have Dom, who says this. I have an engineering bachelor's degree and a management master's degree. I have never been unemployed until Obama took office. Now, I do physical labor alongside kids half my age. Kate says, I know several people who lost good-paying jobs under Obama and now have to work 2 part-time jobs that are way below their skill and education levels, just to keep food on the table. Juan Williams is with us. He joins us every Friday morning. He is the author of We the People. He's the co-host of a wonderful show called The Five. I'm sure you're aware of that. Juan, you know, we often have a fight, but I think we can agree on something this morning.
Okay.
All these part-time jobs, which are very much a characteristic of the Obama years in the economy, it's just not very good. It's just not good enough. Now, you and I can agree on this, can't we?
I don't think so.
Why not? You think part-time jobs are good?
If people want them, if you want a part-time job and you get a part-time job, that's ideal.
They don't want a part-time job.
I don't know. Now, clearly, your letter writers are discontented. Most people want a I know I want a full-time job. You have a full-time job. This is great. But my point to you is we have a different kind of economy here, an economy that's moving away from manufacturing, as Donald Trump has emphasized, moving towards more service sector jobs. A lot of those jobs are part-time jobs. People will take those jobs to fill in. And sometimes, you know what?
Astonished.
What are you astonished about? Look at the rate.
It takes 2 or 3 jobs in any given household to be a middle American.
I agree,
That's what we've come to.
But sometimes people want, especially women, oftentimes want a part-time job. But let me just say this. This is a fact. This is a fact. Look, you know what? I get in trouble all the time, but I'm going to tell you something. People who have child-rearing responsibilities oftentimes try to fit that extra dollar into their pocket.
And they go on welfare.
But let me finish this point to you.
But the producer has just told me.
Yeah.
We literally received hundreds of messages about jobs.
Right.
Nobody wants a part-time job.
I think what you have is...
to take it.
Yeah, they're not forced to take it. You don't have to take a job. People want jobs.
There's nothing else there.
There's nothing else there. That's why we have a 4.7, I think now, % unemployment rate.
Yes, because millions of people have dropped out of the workforce.
You know, this is so interesting to me. You want to say somehow now the standard for measuring employment in our country has changed under President Obama. Thanks, Obama. It hasn't changed. It's the same standard.
not saying that.
And remember that Mitt Romney and all his opponents said if we can get it down to 6, we think we've got something. Obama has it down to 4.7, and you sit here and complain.
I've got to jump in here.
Outrageous.
Tens of millions
I can't stay
out.
quiet anymore. I'm going to take over the show. One, it's a farce what you're talking about. First of all, the real unemployment is a measure of the U6 numbers closer. Yes. The approximation is 11 to 12%.
Right. That is ridiculous.
Let me finish.
All right, let's go back to Bush. Let's go back to Bush.
One at a time.
Go to the U6 under Bush.
Finish.
Okay. When you take the people that have left the workforce, when you take the amount of jobs and types of jobs being created that move the consumer economy, and maybe you should read the Consumer Expenditure Survey, which gives you a better indicator of what people are doing out there. People voted their wallets and their kitchen tables.
And consumer confidence right now, consumer confidence is up, David.
Since November.
You present a distorted picture that fits with Barney. I'm glad you're on his show, but it's not a fair picture.
Wait a minute.
These numbers.
Wait. I will not have this show develop into a shouting match between us all on the set. I will not have it.